Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, text number 7. Karpanya Doshopahata Svabhava Vichami Tvam Dharma Samudacheta Yacheyasyan Nishchitam Bruhitan Me Shishyaste Hamshadimam Tvam Prapannam of miserliness. I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. I'll go through this little by little because the points are all very important. And if I don't do it like that, I'm going to miss some points. Purport. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step, there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. This is the first point of the purport, and it is very valuable for us. That, first of all, there are all different forms of perplexity in this world. That means we become bewildered by various things. We become bewildered by what scientists say, or what teachers say, or what parents say, or what friends say, or what the newspapers say, or the TV says. These things make us full of doubts. Is this correct? Is that not correct? What should I do? Should I act like this? Should I act like that? So there are many perplexities, doubts. What shall I do? How shall I act? So, in the Vedic literature, it is stated that all of these perplexities and doubts can be relieved if one approaches a bona fide spiritual master. A bona fide spiritual master. A spiritual master who is bona fide. What is bona fide? That is a very important question, because many persons may proclaim that they are spiritual masters. But what is a real spiritual master? What is a bona fide spiritual master? That is the point. So, a bona fide spiritual master is described as Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahmanyupashrayashrayam. These are the two qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master. The first qualification is that he must have heard in disciplic succession from another bona fide spiritual master. In my own case, I am not a very qualified devotee at all, but Srila Prabhupada has given me some instructions, has given me some knowledge. And if I do anything right or have any credit at all, it's simply because I very much like to repeat that which I have heard from Srila Prabhupada. That's called Shabde Pare Chanishnatam. You take the instructions that you have heard from the higher authority and you pass them down to the audience who is listening. This is also described in a very practical example in India when they pick mangoes. Do you have mangoes in Yugoslavia? They grow here. They're imported, so they come from India or Africa or wherever. The process is the same wherever mangoes grow. If you want to reap the harvest of mangoes from the tree, then you pick the mango from the top of the tree. People climb up the tree, and there are people just below, all the way down to the ground. You pick the mango very carefully, twisting it so that it breaks off very carefully. Then you hand it down to the next person in the tree. And he takes the mango and then hands it down to the next person in the tree. And finally the mango comes down, down, down. And finally it comes to the person at the bottom who takes the mango and carefully puts it in a basket which has straw in it, so the mango will not be bruised or disturbed in any way. So this is how you pick mangoes. This is also how you pick transcendental knowledge. It is handed down from a higher authority down to his disciple. A spiritual master, he will have disciples. This is natural, especially places where the Vedic culture is still alive. A spiritual master will teach Vedic knowledge by giving Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound, and the disciple will receive that transcendental sound and will in his turn become a spiritual master when his spiritual master leaves the planet. For example, although I formally proclaimed that I had no qualifications, not even as a devotee, but when Srila Prabhupada, just before he left the planet, he said that I should initiate disciples. So because Srila Prabhupada said like that, I dared to take up this mission. Because the higher authority gave the instruction, therefore the disciple has to follow the instruction as the higher authority has given. That's called Shabde Pare Chanishnatam. When you get the transcendental order from the higher authority and it is given to the disciple, then the disciple may follow that instruction with confidence. With confidence. And the second qualification of the spiritual master is Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahmanyu Pashayashayam. He must be situated on the platform of Brahman, which means that he has to be situated on the platform of spiritual life. For example, if somebody wants to tell you, you should not smoke, but he himself is smoking cigarettes, then what kind of teacher is this? He's not a very good teacher. And you're not going to be very convinced by what he says. He's telling you not to smoke, but he's himself smoking. So what kind of teacher is this? This is not a very good teacher. So, in a spiritual sense, the spiritual master must practice what he teaches. If he tells you to follow 4 regulative principles, he has to follow those 4 regulative principles himself. If he tells you to chant 16 rounds a day, he has to himself chant at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra every day. If he tells you to learn the philosophy, he must himself know the philosophy. So he must be situated in the platform which he teaches. Brahmani, it is called. You must be situated in Brahman. How to become situated in Brahman? Krishna gives a good understanding of this in the Bhagavad Gita. Mamchayo vyabacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatichaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who is very much fixed in devotional service of the Lord, who does not give it up in any circumstance, and who does not fall down from that platform of service, at once attains the platform of Brahman. He transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the platform of Brahman. This is an actual devotee or spiritual master. Someone who's always engaged in devotional service. So when you have perplexity and you're in doubt as to what to do, you can approach such a spiritual master and ask him, my dear Guru, Guru means spiritual master, what shall I do? Please instruct me. And then you will get a good answer according to the Vedic literature, and you will be able to follow that answer and make your life perfect. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. A disciplic succession is just what I just described, this line, like the mango tree, the line of passing down knowledge from spiritual master to disciple, who becomes spiritual master, who gives it to his disciple, who becomes spiritual master and gives it to his disciple. And in this way the knowledge is passed down from the very beginning of time. This knowledge has been passed down. Since there has been a creation in this material world, there has been this transcendental knowledge. Because Krishna originally gave this knowledge to Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma is the first created being in this universe. So since the time of Lord Brahma, this knowledge has been passed down through disciplic succession down to the present day. So this knowledge is coming down from very ancient time. It is not new knowledge. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. There's a verse that says like that, Acharyamam Purusha Veda. One who has got an acharya, a spiritual master, he knows what is what. He knows what is the transcendental science because he's heard it from a bona fide spiritual master in the disciplic succession. One should not, therefore, remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Who is the man in material perplexities? That is the question. Here is the answer. It is he who does not understand the problems of life. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, The perplexed man is described as follows. Yo va etad aksharam gargi avidit vasma lokat traiti sakripana. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human, and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. This human form of life is a most valuable asset for the living entity who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. On the other hand, there is the Brahmana, or he who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. Ya etad aksharam gargi vididitsma lokat praiti sabrahmana. Prabhupada will go on in the purport to explain what is a kripana. Kripana means a miser. Now generally we think a miser is somebody who doesn't give away money. But a miser is also someone who doesn't give away knowledge, transcendental knowledge, or engage people in transcendental realization. Yeah. Prabhupada will now describe the characteristics of the kripanas. If you find that yourself is included in the definition of kripana, then you have to do something about that. So I'm going to read this. Listen carefully. The kripanas, or miserly persons, waste their time in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc. in the material conception of life. One is often attached to family life, namely to wife, children, and other members, on the basis of skin disease. The kripana thinks that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the kripana thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can be found even in the lower animals, who take care of children also. Just like the mother thinks, I will protect my child from death. But she cannot. Maybe sooner, maybe later, that child will die. Maybe when the child is 90, still it will die. Maybe when the child is 10, there is some accident, God forbid, but it happens, and the child may die. You cannot avoid death. It does not matter whether you have a very good mother and father. Sometimes by having the best mother and father, still the child grows up to be crooked and does illicit things. Sometimes having the best doctor, the patient dies. The best doctor and the best medicine, the patient still dies. Why? Because these things are not under our control. It is not up to us whether we shall die or not. It is up to the supreme providence, the law of nature, the law of karma. When we take our birth, our duration of life is fixed. There are even people who can read the lifeline on your hand and tell you how long you can live. There are astrologers who can read the planets and tell you about how long you can live. Because the duration of life is already fixed at the beginning when you take your birth. No one can change that except Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, when it is time to die, you die. You cannot say, my dear death, you got the wrong person. Better you come back some other day. I'm busy right now. Death is going to say, ha ha ha. Very funny, sir. Good joke. But now you come with me. You cannot say, no, no, no. I will not die. I have too many works to do. My family is not yet situated economically. My children need me. The death says, no, sir. Sorry. Immediately, come on. And in fact, we are pulled out of this body, wrenched out of this body by death. We don't want to go, we're holding on. No, no, but we're pulled out. And we have no choice but to leave this body and go to another body. And when we're creepiness or misers who are just attached to the bodily condition of life, then we cannot go to a higher destination at the time of death. Rather, we have to go to a lower destination. Lower destination. Therefore, Prabhupada uses the phrases here like cats and dogs. The cats and dogs, they may be very nice. We also have one dog here. Very nice dog. Not if you are a criminal, then the dog is not very nice. But if you're a normal visitor for the Sunday feast, the dog is very nice. So, it is not that we don't like dogs. Or birds. We also have birds here. Birds come in, we feed them. But living like a cat or a dog or a bird is not the purpose of the human form of life. The human form of life is different. It is more advanced than the cats or the dogs. The cats or the dogs, what do they understand? They simply understand eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's all. They don't understand anything more than that. They know how to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. The cats too, the birds too, the goldfish too, the worms too. They're all doing the same thing. And if we, the human beings, also engage in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending without any other idea in life, then we're also creepiness or misers. Therefore, we have to engage ourselves in spiritual activities. Koma acharat pragya dharman bhagavatani ha dulabha manusha janma tadapi adruvam artadam. Prahlad Maharaj, a great personality in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in our history, he lived many millions of years ago, he has given this very important instruction. And that important instruction is that from the very beginning of life, Komara age starts at the age of 5. At the age of 5, you should begin your spiritual life. Because when you grow older, it is very difficult to adopt new philosophies, new understandings, new ways of action. Because when you're older, everything becomes fixed. I once heard a psychological report that when you become 35, your whole life is fixed. You don't want to bend or change anything anymore. Therefore, when one is very young, this is the best time to take up spiritual life. But it doesn't matter even if you're old. It's okay. If you take it up when you're old, it's better than late than never. It's still good. But for those of you who are young, better now. Don't wait till you are old. Because people who say, spiritual life is okay, but I will take it up when I'm old and useless. Now I've got this wonderful, fresh, young body. Let me enjoy it. Let me enjoy eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, because when I'm old, I can't enjoy these things anymore. Not in the same way, because the senses become dull. Therefore, let me enjoy now. But Prahlad Maharaj says, no, don't do that. Because this human form of life is very rarely attained. At any moment, death can come. You don't know. You have no guarantee how long you will live. This line on the hand does not guarantee you will live that long. I know people who had a long line and died young. So, you should try to take up spiritual life. Dharman Bhagavatani Ha. In this world, there is nothing more important than devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. One should try to take up spiritual life. That is very important. Because this human form of life is rare, and it is a very valuable gift. Arthadam, it is full of value. It is full of meaning. This human form of life is filled with meaning. No other form of life has got so much meaning. Cats and dogs' life has no meaning. Chasing after a bone, this is not meaning. Meaning means to understand your relationship as the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage yourself in such activities to perform devotional service, which is officially called Bhakti Yoga. By engaging yourself in devotional service of Krishna, you can become perfected, even though you may presently be a Kripanath. We were all Kripanaths. Everybody in the material world is a Kripanath, more or less. And Srila Prabhupada, by his extraordinary mercy upon all of us, has brought this Krishna conscious process to this Western world. And he has made Kripanaths Brahmanas. He has made misers into learned persons who are engaging themselves in Krishna's transcendental loving devotional service. So become a great person. Don't be a miser. Become great. That is your mission. Become as great as you can be. I don't mean a great movie star, a great rock star, a great politician, a great maker of money. I don't mean that. That is not greatness. That is temporary. That will not last. Everyone will forget you within a few years. But real greatness is when you become a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and go back home, back to Godhead. That is real greatness. Otherwise, to become a great politician and next lifetime become a dog, this is not very great. There was one famous astrologer in India who, after Nehru died, Nehru, you know Nehru, the former Prime Minister of India. He was the first Prime Minister of India. So when he died, this astrologer said that he has gone to take birth in Sweden as a dog. Because of all the sinful activities he committed during his life. Sometimes people say he was the last Englishman to rule India. So, because of that, he took birth as a dog in Sweden. So, he was a very great politician. He reached the highest platform of perfection as a politician. But where is he now? We don't know. He could be anywhere, in any species of life. Because being a politician does not bring you back to Godhead. Being a great rich man does not bring you back to Godhead. Being learned or beautiful or famous does not bring you back to Godhead. These things will be finished when the body is finished. Therefore, everyone must take up spiritual life and become a truly famous person as a famous devotee of the Lord Sri Krishna. Let me just finish the purport. Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the causes of his perplexities. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still, on account of miserly weakness, he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to make a definite solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. The talks between the master and the disciple are serious, and now Arjuna wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjuna understands the Bhagavad Gita is stated in the Gita itself. And yet foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna. There is no difference between Krishna's within and without, and one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand Bhagavad Gita. So if you want to understand Bhagavad Gita, there is a means to do it. And that means is to accept Krishna as spiritual master, to accept a representative of Krishna as spiritual master. And then you can understand Bhagavad Gita, not by mental speculation. By mental speculation, by just thinking some strange thoughts, you cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. You can only understand Gita from an authority. Just like Prabhupada often said, before he came to the Western world and gave Bhagavad Gita to the people, there were hundreds of editions of Bhagavad Gita in English. Yet, not one person became a devotee of Krishna. I know for myself, in college, in a philosophy course, I was requested to read one edition of Bhagavad Gita. And I remember when I read it, I thought, this is complete nonsense. I didn't like it at all. Later on, when I read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, I was amazed how wonderful the book was. And it wasn't until many years later that I realized this was the same book I read in my philosophy course, but it was completely different. The mundane scholars' presentation of Bhagavad Gita is based on their mental concoction. You know, just like the witches get together and make a brew. This is what the mundane scholars' concoction is like. They just concoct a brew, and they call it Bhagavad Gita. But nobody becomes a devotee of Krishna after reading those Bhagavad Gitas, because it's useless. It doesn't tell you what Krishna is saying. It distorts all the meanings completely. If you want to find out what is actually Bhagavad Gita, then you have to approach a devotee like Srila Prabhupada. Actually, you have to approach Srila Prabhupada. He's the one who has given the understanding of what is this Bhagavad Gita in so many languages throughout the world. I think we have made Bhagavad Gita in at least 50 languages throughout the world. And wherever we make this Bhagavad Gita, people become devotees of Krishna simply by reading the book. That is the difference between an authorized version and an unauthorized version. An authorized version, which has come in disciplic succession from the spiritual masters. This authorized version is powerful, and it makes you a devotee of Krishna. And the unauthorized version, which is coming out of mental speculation, is useless, and it doesn't have any effect whatsoever except to make people confused. People become confused. I became confused when I read that original Bhagavad Gita in my college days, very confused. I said, this is nonsense philosophy. Who could possibly accept this? I refused to take the course. Now, Bhagavad Gita is my life and soul. Same book, but completely different understanding. Completely different understanding. It is simply a question of receiving it in bona fide disciplic succession. So now we are lucky. We have got Bhagavad Gita in bona fide disciplic succession. Now we should accept it into our hearts, into our minds, into our intelligence, and surrender to Krishna fully and go back home, back to Godhead in the spiritual sky where we belong. So thank you very much for hearing this lecture on chapter 2, verse 7 of Bhagavad Gita. And we hope that you will go on reading Bhagavad Gita at home. Wasting time. We have to ask for questions. We waste so much time making so much noise. All the birds will fly away. Yes. Yes.
You told us about going back home, back to Godhead.
Yes.
So how our home back at the God, our home looks like. I have read Bhagavatam and I have found some descriptions, and these descriptions are very nice. I enjoy it very much. I want to hear more of these descriptions, so I ask you for that. And please don't say me some answer in style if you wouldn't understand, or you don't have a mind to understand or something like that.
I didn't even think of it. You can, first of all, before I answer your question, you can find out a lot about the spiritual world by reading the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Is the books, these long, so that's so many books?
I'm reading it right now.
Very nice. And you can read also Krishna book. Krishna book is the summary study of the 10th canto. So if you can read Krishna book, and in Krishna book you will find everything that is there in 10th canto, but presented in summary study. So the first qualifications or characteristics of the spiritual sky is that, first of all, it is eternal. It is eternal. No one is ever born there. No one ever dies there. Everyone there is full of knowledge. There is no ignorance there. And everyone there is full of bliss. There is no misery there. In the material world, all these qualities are there. Temporary existence, ignorance, and misery. But in the spiritual world, it's eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. And every word or every speech that someone makes is like a song. Sanskrit is sung, actually, when it is spoken. It has a meter, a very nice meter to it, very nice rhythm to it. Even the prose Sanskrit sounds very nice, especially when Krishna and the gopis speak to each other. Of course, they speak in Brajabuli, that's another language, but it's very close to Sanskrit. It's the common language that the people use. And every walk or every step that you take is like a dance. And the trees there are like desire trees. They can offer you anything you want. Usually when you go to a tree, the tree can only give you fruits or flowers in the springtime, or in the late summer if it's fruits. Flowers in the springtime, fruits in the late summer. And you can only get from an apple tree apples. You cannot get from the apple tree mangoes. Nowhere. You don't get from the lemon tree grapes. These things don't happen. But in the spiritual sky, the desire tree can give you anything you want. You walk up to the tree and you say, "My dear tree, I would like to offer some mangoes to Krishna." The tree gives you mangoes. You go, "My dear tree, I would like to offer chikus," which are another kind of fruit, brown fruits. They taste just wonderful. Yeah? So the tree gives you chikus. So many nice fruits the tree will give you. The tree will give you flowers. The tree can give you whatever you like. And there are cows there, called Surabhi cows, who give unlimited milk. Anytime you milk them, they give milk. And from this milk you can prepare ghee and butter and yogurt and cheese and sweets of all kinds and varieties. So there's no lack of anything. All food you need can come from the trees, from the cows, and you can eat as much as you like. Prabhupada once gave this example in Bombay. He was saying, "So you like to eat? That is all right, but how much can you eat?" Just like at our Sunday feast. Sometimes we have rasgullas. Probably not this Sunday. But sometimes there's rasgullas. Very nice sweet ball. White ball. Cooked in sugar water, cheese. Very nice sweet. You want to eat 1,000 rasgullas. They're so good. But how many can you actually eat? 8, 9, 10. You get filled up. You can't eat anymore. But if you go to the spiritual sky, you can eat 1,000,000 rasgullas. And all relationships between everybody there are very nice. Not that they're just sweet all the time. Sometimes they are very humorous. Very humorous. And sometimes very sharp. Like there are two different camps which serve Krishna. The camp of Srimati Radharani and the camp of Srimati Chandravali. And they're on one side and the other side. And they always fight with each other about who will serve Krishna best. And Srimati Radharani's camp always wins. So there's all kinds of variety in the spiritual sky. All kinds of activities, all kinds of tastes and wonderful activities that go on. So we advise you to go there. It is a nice place.
Поboljšati mantru, pošto u mantru često mi se dešava da moj um odbud i kako usmjeriti svoj um na Harikesa Swami.
How we can improve our chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because the problem is sometimes his mind is not so concentrated on Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Of course, that is because the mind is conditioned and it likes to do whatever it wants to do, whenever it wants to do it. So you have to control the mind. You have to capture the mind and say, "Now I'm going to hear and chant." And then when the mind goes off somewhere else, you have to say, "Whoop, come back." You have to constantly consciously control your mind. That is required. So it is requiring determination. Determination. You have to consciously control your mind and say, "Now you must surrender, mind." You can even beat it with shoes. Would you like to do that? Or you can use a broomstick.
Много ясно питanje. Питам nešto u vezi Bhagavad Gita. Znamo da postoji ova Bhagavad Gita kakva jeste od Prabhupada, Šrila Prabhupada. A pre toga je postojala jedna koja nije bila u nizu duhovnih učitelja, koja nije bila onako kako jeste, stvari prava. A zašto, zbog čega se izgubila pre toga? Pre znači one pogrešne Bhagavad Gite. Zašto se izgubila prava? Zašto je tek izdata kasnije u tumačenju Prabhupada.
We have now Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada, but before that Bhagavad Gita it wasn't in disciple succession. And why it's happened that real Bhagavad Gita was lost before actually Srila Prabhupada made this Bhagavad Gita as it is?
Bhagavad Gita was not lost. In India, it was going on quite nicely under disciplic succession. But in the West, it had never been established, disciplic succession. But in India, it was there. Prabhupada did not pick Bhagavad Gita out of the air. He learned it from his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he learned it from his spiritual master. So in India was disciplic succession going on. But in the West, no one had ever preached Bhagavad Gita before properly. Simply some scholars made editions of Bhagavad Gita.
Zašto mi se sve ovo čini poznatim, iako nikad nisam čitala kako prvi put sam tu i zbog čega mi se čini sve to najnormalnije u čemu je priroda.
She's the first time here, but she has a feeling that she already knows everything what you speak and that it sounds very normally to her. And why is like that? Because she already has a feeling that she knew it before.
Maybe you did. This is not your first lifetime. You have been living life after life, species after species, since time immemorial. And maybe in one human form of life, you were hearing Bhagavad Gita. After all, the class I gave tonight was very basic philosophy. So you might have heard it somewhere before in previous lives, and therefore it sounds perfectly normal to you. Anyway, I think the way I presented it, it shouldn't have sounded abnormal. But now you have to come again. You should make it a regular Sunday function to come. Or even during the week.
Ja se zahvaljujem na prisustvu i mogućnosti, ali moram da postavim još jedno pitanje. To što kažete da sam možda nekada slušala, ali kako objasniti to da sam dugo vremena običnim jezikom jedne Jugoslovenke koja živi na ovom području, uvek želela da prenesem neke lepe duhovne stvari duha, čoveka, lepote iznutra, a ne samo ovog materijalnog sveta. Iako ne mogu da kažem da ne uživamo nekim materijalnim dobitima, ali sigurno da mi uvek bila poenta u životu ako nema onog iznutra, tog unutrašnjeg zadovoljstva, jer sam znala dakle i kako sam, čemu sam težila tom iznutra, ali sam sigurno težila, zbog čega je to u meni tako jako, a nije u ostalim ljudima.
She is very thankful that you invite her to come again. But she also wants to ask one question more. How it's happened that actually that she can explain to others and wants to present to others and give something nice and connected with some spiritual knowledge, just in one common language, like normal person from Belgrade, from Yugoslavia. How it's happened that she always had that tendency to give others nice and spiritual things from inside, and she always.
Because Krishna is in your heart, and if you are sincere, Krishna will also give you proper understanding from within. However, I do heartily recommend that you take home Bhagavad Gita with you and study it, and then your preaching will become very nice. Because you can't possibly know everything in Bhagavad Gita just from the heart. You can know some of the basic points, but the more sophisticated points, You have to learn from Krishna in this book. So you have got a good foundation, all right? Take home Bhagavad Gita and read it carefully, and then you can really be a good teacher.
Thank you.
Harikesa. I want to let the guests ask. The guests can ask a question. Yes.
Is it possible to influence some people to be more advanced and accept Krishna consciousness quickly, or it just depends on his own destiny, or can we actually do it quicker? Or?
No, by the mercy. There's something called mercy, kripa. Kripa means mercy. By the mercy of higher authorities, they can give you Krishna consciousness as they like. Krishna or Lord Chaitanya used to do that. He used to just go around India and he would just embrace people and they would become mad in spiritual ecstasy and run off, and then they would embrace somebody and that person would become mad in spiritual ecstasy. So there's a perfect example of exactly that happening. And the spiritual master, when he becomes pleased with you for what you have done, then naturally the mercy flows to you. Not that you should come to spiritual master and say, please give me your mercy. That he can do to a little extent. But when you do something to please him very nicely, then the spiritual master just flows that mercy to you. And that way you will be able to get all kinds of spiritual advancement very quickly. That's called kripa siddha. To become a perfected person on the basis of mercy. He's got another one.
Вижте, шастри се каже, нема така страшни гости, kao što може да tako neprijatelja, kao što zauzime spati, kao što ljubljeni sveci, kao što je drugi haj. Kako rešiti ovaj problem možda?
Quoted one Sanskrit verse that there is no biggest enemy than lust, and biggest fire than lust, and how to get rid of that lust and to solve that problem.
You're so young. And you're already fried out with lust? This is amazing. This just goes to show you what the material world is like. This young boy is just an innocent youth, doesn't even know what lust is, and he's already fried out with it. There is only one solution. That is to become a pure devotee of Krishna. Otherwise, there is no possibility of controlling lust. You must become a pure devotee of Krishna. So are you ready? Very good, very good. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.